Adam Mercer was not having a good day. The air filtration in Gateway Solaris was on the fritz again, filling the massive interplanetary transit hub with a peculiar mix of atmospheric compositions from a dozen worlds. To his human nose, it smelled like a combination of burnt cinnamon and wet copper. He wrinkled his nose as he ran another diagnostic check on his ship's navigation system. The transit station bustled around him, a testament to the Galactic Alliance's engineering marvels. Dozens of species moved through the cavernous main concourse, their bodies ranging from vaguely humanoid to utterly alien. Translucent, jellyfish-like beings floated alongside reptilian diplomats. Automated translation devices created a constant background hum, occasionally punctuated by the melodic chimes that signaled arrivals and departures. Adam glanced at his wrist display. Only 3 hours before his scheduled departure to Proxima Centauri's fourth moon, where he was contracted to survey potential mining sites. Just enough time to finish his pre-flight checks and grab something resembling coffee from one of the station's many food vendors. System integrity at 97%. His ship's AI chirped in his ear. Recommend recalibration of the quantum stabilizer before deep space travel. Noted, Adam muttered, swiping through the holographic display. He had spent the last 5 years as a freelance scout and pilot after leaving Earth Space Corps. The freedom suited him. No commanders, no regulations beyond the basic Alliance protocols, and the opportunity to see corners of the galaxy most humans couldn't even imagine. He was so absorbed in the diagnostic readings that he didn't notice the figure approaching until she was standing directly before him, her shadow falling across his display. "Excuse me, I'm in the middle of," he began, looking up. The words died in his throat. She was unmistakably Asterian, tall and willowy with silver-tinted skin that seemed to shimmer under the station's lights. Her large, almond-shaped eyes held pinpricks of starlight against violet irises. A circlet of crystalline material adorned her forehead, connecting to elaborate silver markings that trailed down her temples. Her clothing was simple but elegant, a form-fitting suit of material that seemed halfway between fabric and living plant matter. Adam had encountered Asterians before, but always at a distance. They were known for their advanced biotechnology and their preference for keeping to themselves despite being founding members of the Alliance. "You are Adam Mercer of Earth," she said. It wasn't a question. Her voice carried the characteristic musical quality of Asterian speech, even through her translator. "I am," he replied cautiously. "What can I help you with?" She straightened her already perfect posture and looked directly into his eyes with an intensity that made him want to step back. "You will be my husband." Adam blinked, then blinked again. He glanced around, half expecting to find himself the target of some elaborate prank. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" he asked, certain he'd misheard. "You will be my husband," she repeated, her expression unchanged. "I am Nadira of House Luminaris, daughter of the High Council of Arath 7. You bear the celestial mark. It cannot be denied." Adam took a step back, bumping into his ship's access ramp. Several nearby aliens had stopped to observe the exchange, some with obvious amusement, others with what appeared to be concern. "Look, I think there's been some mistake," he said, trying to keep his voice level. "I've never met you before. I'm not marrying anyone, especially not someone who just walks up and announces it." Nadira tilted her head slightly, as if confused by his response. "This is not a proposal, Adam Mercer. This is a sacred summons of the Asterian people. You cannot refuse." "Watch me," Adam replied, turning back to his console. "Now if you'll excuse me, I have work to do." "You do not understand," she persisted. "I have seen the sign. The celestial patterns have aligned. The bonding rite must be completed." Adam sighed and turned back to her. "Look, I'm sure your bonding rite is very important to your people, but it doesn't apply to me. I'm not Asterian." "That is precisely why it must be you," she said, her voice softening slightly. "The stars have spoken." An uncomfortable silence stretched between them. Around them, the crowd had grown, with whispers and translated murmurs rippling through the onlookers. "In 3 station cycles, you'll come to Arath 7, Nadira finally said, taking a step back. "If you do not, She paused, her star-flecked eyes dimming slightly. There will be consequences beyond your understanding. Before Adam could respond, she turned and walked away, her movements fluid and graceful. The crowd parted before her, some bowing their heads in what appeared to be respect or perhaps fear. Adam stood frozen, watching her silvery form disappear into the throng of interstellar travelers. What in the seven systems had just happened? And what exactly did she mean by consequences? He shook his head and turned back to his diagnostics, but his concentration was shattered. The strange encounter played on loop in his mind, and he couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just been irrevocably altered. "Ship," he said to his AI, "search Alliance databases for information on Asterian marriage customs, specifically something called the bonding rite." "Searching," the AI replied. "This may take some time. Asterian cultural data is limited in public repositories." Adam Sigit. So much for his routine survey mission. He had a feeling things were about to get a lot more complicated. The Interplanetary Relations Office was located on the uppermost level of Gateway Solaris, its transparent walls offering a breathtaking view of the surrounding star field. Adam had to pass through 3 separate security checkpoints before being admitted to the waiting area. After an hour of waiting, he was finally ushered into the office of Diplomatic Liaison Officer Tail, a humanoid with pale blue skin and 4 arms who specialized in cultural conflicts. "Mr. Mercer," Tail greeted him, extending one of their upper arms. "Please sit. How can I help you today?" Adam took the offered seat, noticing how it adjusted automatically to accommodate human physiology. "I need information about Asterian marriage customs, specifically something called the bonding rite. I've had a concerning encounter." Tail's expression shifted subtly, 2 of their 4 hands steepling together. "You were approached by an Asterian claiming you as a bondmate." "Yes, exactly. She said I would be her husband. That it wasn't a proposal, but a sacred summons I couldn't refuse." The diplomatic officer leaned back in their chair, all 4 hands now fidgeting nervously. "This is uncommon. Asterians rarely interact with non-Asterians in this manner. May I ask the name of the individual who approached you?" She called herself Nadira of House Luminaris. Tail's eyes widened noticeably. House Luminaris is one of the ruling houses of Arath, 7, the Asterian homeworld. They oversee much of the biotechnological development that the Alliance relies upon for medical treatments. "So she's important," Adam said flatly. "Extremely. And Asterian bonding rites are taken with the utmost seriousness. They believe certain individuals are cosmically destined to be joined. Their seers identify these pairings through what they call celestial marks, energy patterns unique to each individual that supposedly complement each other perfectly." Adam ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "But I'm human. Surely they can't expect me to comply with their customs just because some seer had a vision." "Under normal circumstances, I would agree," Tail said carefully. "However, interspecies marriages, while rare, are recognized under Alliance law when they comply with the cultural practices of member species." "So what? I have no say in this." "Of course you do," Tail assured him. "But refusing an Asterian bonding summons, especially from a high house, it could be seen as a grave insult. The Asterians provide crucial biotechnology to the Alliance. Their psionic abilities and connection to organic technology make them invaluable allies. So politics trumps personal freedom?" Adam asked, his voice rising. Tail spread all 4 hands in a placating gesture. "I'm merely explaining the complexity of the situation. Let me consult with some colleagues who specialize in Asterian relations." As Tail tapped rapidly on their console, Adam turned to look out at the stars. He had always prided himself on his independence, on answering to no one but himself. The thought of being forced into any kind of relationship, political, ceremonial, or otherwise, made his skin crawl. When Tail turned back to him, their expression was grave. "I've just received a priority communication. The Alliance Diplomatic Corps is requesting your presence at a formal meeting regarding this matter. It seems House Luminaris has filed an official notice of bonding intent." "They work fast," Adam muttered. "Time moves differently for species with psionic abilities," Tail explained. They likely knew you would come here seeking information. A chill ran down Adam's spine at the thought of being so predictable to an alien race. And if I refuse to attend this meeting? The meeting is merely to discuss options, Tail said, though their tone suggested otherwise. But given the delicate nature of Alliance-Asterian relations, I would strongly advise cooperation at this stage. 3 hours later, Adam found himself sitting before a panel of 5 Alliance representatives, each from a different species. The gravity of the situation was evident in their formal attire and the secure, windowless chamber where they met. Mr. Mercer, began the central figure, a tall, thin being with feathered skin. We understand your reluctance. However, we must impress upon you the diplomatic significance of this matter. With all due respect, Adam replied, I don't see how my personal life has anything to do with diplomacy. The Asterians view their bonding rights as sacred, explained another representative, this one resembling an upright feline. A refusal could be interpreted as a rejection of their cultural values. At worst, it could trigger a diplomatic incident. So what exactly are you asking me to do? Adam demanded. We are requesting that you travel to Arath 7 and participate in their initial ceremony, the rite of soul viewing. This does not commit you to marriage, but demonstrates respect for their traditions. Adam crossed his arms. And if I still say no? The representatives exchanged glances. The feathered one spoke again. The Alliance cannot force you. However, your contractor license could be reviewed. Future assignments might become difficult to secure. Blackmail, essentially. Adam felt his jaw tighten. How long would I need to stay on Arath 7? 1 standard week for the preliminary ceremonies. After that, the situation can be reassessed. Adam knew when he was beaten. A week of strange alien rituals was better than losing his livelihood. Fine. I'll go, but I want it on record that I'm doing this under protest. Noted, said the feline representative, looking relieved. A transport has already been arranged. You depart in 6 hours. As Adam left the chamber, he couldn't help but feel like a pawn in some cosmic game. He had 3 hours to gather his belongings and put his ship into storage. Whatever awaited him on Arath 7, he doubted it would be as simple as a week of ceremonies. The journey to Arath 7 took 3 days, even with the Alliance's fastest quantum drive. Adam spent most of the time in his assigned quarters, alternating between studying what little information was available about Asterian culture and staring out at the hypnotic swirl of stars streaking past. He learned that Asterians were one of the oldest races in the Alliance, with a civilization spanning back nearly 50,000 Earth years. They had mastered biotechnology early in their development, learning to merge organic and technological elements in ways that other species were only beginning to understand. Their psionic abilities were legendary, not simply telepathy, but a deep connection to what they called the cosmic web that bound all living things. The more he read, the more uneasy he became. How had he, of all humans, caught the attention of such an advanced species? When they finally dropped out of hyperspace above Arath 7, Adam's breath caught in his throat. The planet was breathtaking, a swirling marble of deep blues and vibrant greens, with gossamer rings of what appeared to be crystalline material encircling the equator. Massive structures could be seen from orbit, not the angular constructions of human cities, but organic, flowing shapes that seemed to grow from the landscape itself. Prepare for atmospheric entry, announced the ship's AI. Asterian guidance systems have taken control. The descent was smoother than any Adam had experienced. Rather than fighting against the atmosphere, the ship seemed to slip through it like a fish through water. As they neared the surface, he could make out vast rainforests interspersed with living structures, buildings that appeared to be part plant, part crystal, growing seamlessly from the environment. They landed on a platform that seemed to be composed of some sort of responsive flora, the surface dimpling slightly to cradle the ship before hardening again. As the exit ramp descended, Adam took a deep breath of alien air. It was rich and humid, filled with unfamiliar scents that somehow reminded him of Earth's tropical forests. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth standard, giving each step a subtle bounciness. Waiting at the bottom of the ramp was Nadira, flanked by 4 other Asterians dressed in what appeared to be ceremonial armor, living suits of iridescent material that shifted colors with their movements. Nadira herself wore a more elaborate version of the outfit she'd worn on Gateway Solaris, with additional crystalline elements woven through her silver-white hair. Adam Mercer of Earth, she greeted him, her voice clearer now without the need for translation devices. Asterians were known for their gift with languages. Welcome to Arath, 7. You honor us with your presence. Her tone was formal, almost cold, a stark contrast to the intensity of their first meeting. Adam decided to match her formality. Thank you for your welcome, he replied with a slight bow. A gesture he'd read was appropriate. I come in the spirit of cultural exchange and understanding. A diplomatic non-answer that committed him to nothing. He saw a flicker of something, amusement, in her star-flecked eyes. You have been assigned quarters in the House Luminaris compound, she continued. There you will rest and prepare for the soul viewing ceremony tomorrow. Adam nodded, following as she turned and led the way from the landing platform. The path they walked seemed to illuminate slightly with each step, bioluminescent plants responding to their presence. All around, the alien forest hummed with life. Creatures that resembled birds, but with 6 wings darted between trees, while something like a cross between a squirrel and a jellyfish undulated through the lower branches. The Luminaris compound was a breathtaking structure that seemed to have grown organically from the forest floor. Massive trunks of iridescent wood formed the main supports, while walls of living tissue, something between plant matter and crystal, created the enclosures. Light filtered through the semi-transparent surfaces, casting rainbow patterns across the floors. As they walked, Adam noticed other Asterians stopping to watch him pass. Some bowed their heads in what might have been respect. Others touched their fingertips to their foreheads in a gesture he didn't recognize. A few younger Asterians, at least he assumed they were younger, whispered excitedly to each other as he passed. Your people seem very interested in me, he commented to Nadira. You are the first human to be honored with a binding summons, she replied without looking back. It is an historic occasion. Lucky me, Adam muttered under his breath. If Nadira heard his sarcasm, she gave no indication. They proceeded through a series of chambers, each more beautiful than the last, until they reached what appeared to be a living suite. The ceiling was open to the sky, though Adam noticed a thin membrane that presumably kept out rain. The furniture seemed to grow directly from the floor. Beds, tables, and chairs all formed from the same living material as the walls. These will be your quarters, Nadira said, finally turning to face him. Food and water compatible with human physiology will be provided. The viewing ceremony will take place at first light. I suggest you rest and center yourself before then. Adam felt a surge of frustration at her businesslike manner. Can we talk about what's actually happening here? You show up out of nowhere, announce I'm going to be your husband, and now I'm on your planet preparing for some ceremony I know nothing about. Don't you think I deserve some real answers? Nadira paused, studying his face as if it were a complex text she was trying to decipher. The binding is not a simple matter to explain to outsiders, she finally said. But you are right. You deserve to understand what is happening. She gestured to a sitting area where the floor had formed itself into comfortable-looking couches. Adam sat cautiously, finding the surface surprisingly yielding and comfortable. Our seers observed a rare alignment in the cosmic energy patterns, Nadira began, taking a seat across from him. Your energy signature, what we call the soul pattern, resonates in perfect harmony with mine. Such alignments are exceedingly rare, even among our own people. To find it with an off-worlder. She shook her head slightly. It is unprecedented. So, because our energy patterns match, we're supposed to get married? Adam asked skeptically. The binding is more than what humans would call marriage, she corrected. It is a joining of energies, a sacred completion of cosmic patterns. When two perfectly resonant beings join, it strengthens the fabric of reality itself. Adam resisted the urge to roll his eyes. It sounded like mystical nonsense to him, But he reminded himself that Asturian mysticism was backed by advanced science that humans barely understood. "And what if I don't believe in any of this?" he asked. "Belief is not required for truth to exist," she replied simply. "The soul viewing will reveal what cannot be hidden. If the seers are mistaken, which has not happened in 10,000 years, you will be free to leave. And if they're not mistaken," Nadira's expression softened slightly, "then you will see what I have seen. You will understand why this must be." She stood gracefully. "Rest now. Tomorrow will test your spirit in ways you cannot anticipate." As she moved to leave, Adam called after her. "Why me, Nadira? There must be thousands of Asturians who would be honored to bind with your house. Why choose a human who doesn't even understand your ways?" She paused at the doorway, her back to him. "I did not choose you, Adam Mercer. The cosmos did." After a moment's hesitation, she added more softly, "And I have spent my life preparing to accept that choice, whatever form it took." With that, she was gone, leaving Adam alone with his thoughts in the alien room. He lay back on the strange, organic couch, watching the unfamiliar stars appear one by one in the alien sky above him. Whatever happened tomorrow, he had a feeling his life would never be the same. Despite his anxiety, the gentle sounds of the Asturian forest and the surprisingly comfortable accommodations eventually lulled Adam into sleep. He dreamed of stars rearranging themselves and silver-skinned figures dancing among nebulae. He awoke to soft chimes and found clothing laid out for him. A simple robe of material similar to what the Asturians wore, but tailored for human physiology. After a brief internal debate, he put on, finding it unexpectedly comfortable, like wearing nothing at all, while simultaneously being perfectly protected from the elements. A young Asturian guide led him through the compound to a massive structure deep in the forest. Unlike the living buildings he'd seen so far, this temple appeared ancient, its crystalline walls weathered by time. Massive trees had grown around and through it, their roots and branches becoming part of the architecture over what must have been thousands of years. Inside, the air hummed with energy that made the hairs on Adam's arms stand on end. The central chamber was a vast space dominated by a pool of what looked like liquid starlight in the center. Asturians in ceremonial attire stood in concentric circles around the pool, their voices raised in a harmonic chant that seemed to resonate with the crystal walls themselves. Nadira waited at the edge of the pool, dressed in ceremonial robes that seemed to capture and amplify the ambient light. When she saw Adam, she nodded once and extended her hand. "The soul viewing will show what words cannot," she said as he approached. "Are you prepared?" "As I'll ever be," Adam replied, trying to mask his nervousness. An elderly Asturian approached, his skin more translucent than silver, showing the network of energy that flowed beneath like luminous blood vessels. He carried a staff topped with a crystal that pulsed in time with the chanting. "I am Elder Solaris," he introduced himself. "I will guide your consciousness through the viewing. You must open yourself completely. Resistance could harm both you and Nadira." "What exactly am I supposed to do?" Adam asked. "Simply step into the pool with Nadira and allow your mind to empty," the elder explained. "The sacred waters will do the rest." Adam looked dubiously at the swirling liquid starlight. "Is it safe for humans?" "The pool adapts to all life forms," Elder Solaris assured him. "It is consciousness given form, neither matter nor energy as you understand them." With a deep breath, Adam took Nadira's offered hand. Her skin was warm, almost hot to the touch, and he felt a subtle vibration pass between them. Together, they stepped into the pool. The liquid felt both cool and warm simultaneously, and seemed to possess an impossible depth. Though it appeared shallow, Adam felt as though he were stepping into an endless abyss. As they waded to the center, the chanting intensified. The elder raised his staff, and the crystal at its peak began to emit pulses of light that synchronized with the chorus of voices. "Open your mind," Nadira whispered beside him. "Do not fear what you will see." Before Adam could respond, the world dissolved around him. He was no longer standing in a pool in an alien temple. He was nowhere and everywhere at once. Images flashed through his consciousness, stars being born, planets forming, life evolving across countless worlds. He felt himself expanding beyond the confines of his body, beyond the limitations of human perception. And then, suddenly, he was seeing through Nadira's eyes. He experienced her childhood on Arath, 7, felt the weight of responsibility placed upon her as a daughter of House Luminaris. He understood her lifelong preparation for the binding, years of meditation, of study, of sacrifice. He felt her initial shock when the seers revealed her destined bondmate would be human, followed by her acceptance and determination. The perspective shifted again, and now Nadira was experiencing his memories. His childhood on Earth, his years in the Space Corps, his decision to become a freelance scout, his loneliness, his yearning for connection even as he valued his independence. Other visions followed, glimpses of Astrian history, of their evolution from simple forest dwellers to masters of biotechnology and psionic arts. Adam saw their struggles against forces that threatened their world, their eventual decision to join the Alliance, their continuing role as guardians of biological knowledge. Throughout it all, a golden thread seemed to connect him to Nadira, a resonance that grew stronger with each shared memory, each revealed truth. He could feel her consciousness intertwined with his, neither dominating, both in perfect balance. And then, abruptly, he was back in his body, still standing in the pool. But everything had changed. The liquid starlight now swirled around them in complex patterns, forming what looked like a three-dimensional map of energy pathways connecting the two of them. The Asterians around the pool had fallen silent, many with expressions of awe on their alien faces. Elder Solaris was nodding, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "The resonance is true," the Elder announced. "The cosmic threads are aligned beyond question. Let all bear witness to the truth of the binding." Adam looked at Nadira, seeing her as if for the first time. The connection between them remained, a subtle awareness of her thoughts and emotions humming at the edge of his consciousness. "Now do you understand?" she asked softly. He did, at least partly. The experience had been overwhelming, but he could no longer deny the strange connection between them. Whether it was some quirk of quantum physics or something more mystical, there was an undeniable resonance between their energy patterns. I need time to process this," he managed to say. Elder Solaris gestured for them to exit the pool. As they stepped out, the liquid starlight seemed reluctant to release them, clinging to their skin momentarily before sliding away. "What happens now?" Adam asked, still disoriented from the experience. "Now we prepare for the formal binding ceremony," Elder Solaris explained. "The soul viewing has confirmed what the seers foresaw. You and Nadira are cosmic reflections, two halves of a greater whole." Adam felt panic rising. The experience had been profound, yes, but he wasn't ready to commit his life to an alien culture based on one mystical vision. "I need to speak with Nadira," he said firmly. "Alone?" The elder raised an eyebrow, but nodded. "Of course. The preliminary rites have been completed. You may speak privately." Nadira led Adam to a secluded garden within the temple grounds. Bioluminescent plants provided gentle illumination, and a small stream of the same starlight liquid from the pool ran through the center of the space. "You are troubled," she said. "It wasn't a question." "Wouldn't you be?" Adam replied. "Yesterday, I was a free agent heading for a routine survey mission. Today, I'm apparently half of some cosmic puzzle and expected to bind myself to a woman and a culture I barely understand." Nadira nodded slowly. "I have had years to prepare for this moment. You have had days. It is natural that you would feel overwhelmed." "It's more than that," Adam said, pacing the small garden. "I saw your memories, your preparation. You've been trained your whole life for this role. I haven't. I don't know the first thing about being part of a cosmic binding or whatever this is. The binding doesn't require you to become Asterian," she said. "It only asks that you be who you truly are. That is why you were chosen. Your essence complements mine perfectly." Adam stopped pacing and looked directly at her. "And what if I refuse? What if I walk away right now?" Nadira's expression remained serene, but he could feel her disquiet through their new connection. You would be within your rights. We do not bind the unwilling. But what? The energies that have been set in motion cannot be easily reversed. The partial connection we now share would remain incomplete, leaving both of us diminished. Diminished how? She considered her words carefully. Think of it as a song that stops mid-melody or a bridge built halfway across a chasm. What has begun seeks completion. Without it, there is disharmony. Adam sighed heavily and sat on a bench formed from living wood. I need to understand more before I can make any decision. Nadira nodded and joined him on the bench, maintaining a respectful distance. What would you know? Before Adam could respond, a distant alarm sounded, a haunting, multi-toned wail that seemed to come from the trees themselves. Nadira's head snapped up, her expression suddenly alert. What is that? Adam asked. A perimeter breach, she replied, already rising. Something has entered our territory uninvited. As if in response to her words, a group of Asterian guards rushed into the garden, their living armor shifting to a defensive configuration. Lady Nadira, the lead guard said urgently, we must secure you and the Earth human immediately. Shadow Reavers have been detected approaching the sacred temple. Shadow Reavers? Adam questioned. A faction opposed to House Luminaris and our alliance with other worlds, Nadira explained quickly. They believe Asterian power should be kept separate from other species. And they're not happy about our arrangement, Adam guessed. No, Nadira confirmed grimly. They would see the binding prevented at any cost. The guards surrounded them, forming a protective formation as they hurried back toward the main compound. As they moved through the forest, Adam noticed strange disturbances in the vegetation. Plants withering as if exposed to some toxic element, crystalline structures dimming. They're using energy disruptors, Nadira explained, seeing his confusion. Technology designed to sever the connection between living things and the cosmic web. Highly illegal and dangerous. They had almost reached the compound when the attack came. Dark figures dropped from the canopy above, their forms obscured by some kind of light-absorbing field that made them appear as moving shadows. They wielded weapons that emitted pulses of sickly green energy. The Asterian guards engaged immediately, their living armor extending into defensive appendages and weapons. The battle was unlike anything Adam had witnessed, less a physical confrontation than a contest of energies, with visible waves of power colliding between the combatants. One of the shadow figures broke through the guard formation, heading directly for Nadira. Adam acted on instinct, tackling the attacker with a move he'd learned in Space Corps training. The figure was surprisingly solid despite its shadowy appearance, and they both tumbled to the forest floor. The attacker recovered quickly, swinging a blade of condensed dark energy at Adam's head. He rolled away just in time, feeling the heat of the weapon as it passed inches from his face. Nadira stepped forward, her hands weaving complex patterns in the air. The plants around them responded, vines and roots erupting from the ground to entangle the shadow attacker. For a moment, it seemed they had the upper hand. Then one of the other Shadow Reavers fired a pulse of green energy directly at Nadira. She tried to deflect it with a psionic shield, but the energy broke through, striking her squarely in the chest. She collapsed with a cry of pain that Adam felt through their new connection, as if it were his own agony. Nadira, he shouted, rushing to her side. She was conscious but weakened. The silver glow of her skin dimmed significantly. The energy disruptor, she gasped. It severs our connection to the life force. The Shadow Reavers were regrouping, preparing for another assault. The Asterian guards formed a defensive circle around Adam and Nadira, but they were outnumbered. We need to get to the heart chamber, one of the guards urged. It's the most defensible position. With Adam supporting Nadira, they retreated into the compound, the sounds of combat following close behind. They rushed through corridors of living crystal until they reached a massive chamber at the center of the structure. The heart chamber was aptly named, a vast space dominated by what appeared to be an enormous crystalline heart, pulsing with the same starlight energy from the temple pool. Veins of luminescence spread from it throughout the structure, clearly the power source for the entire compound. As they sealed the chamber doors, Elder Solaris approached, his face grave. The Shadow Reavers have corrupted the outer defenses. They will breach this chamber soon. How are they doing this? Adam asked. I thought Asterians were pacifists. Most are, the Elder confirmed. But the Reavers have rejected our ways. They use forbidden technologies, weapons that disrupt the natural flow of life energy. Nadira had recovered somewhat, though she still leaned on Adam for support. They seek to prevent the binding. They fear the power it would bring to House Luminaris. What power? Adam asked. The Elder and Nadira exchanged glances. There is a prophecy, Elder Solaris finally explained, that when the cosmic binding joins Asterian blood with an off-worlder, it will usher in a new age of power and understanding. The destined consort, you, Adam Mercer, is said to be able to unite with the heart of our world in ways even we cannot. Adam looked at the pulsing crystal heart. What does that mean exactly? It means, Nadira said softly, that you could potentially channel the planet's energy in ways our people have only theorized. A tremendous impact shook the doors to the chamber, interrupting their conversation. The Shadow Reavers were attempting to break through. We're out of time, the Elder said urgently. Adam Mercer, you must decide now. Will you accept the binding and help us defend our world? I thought the binding was a week-long ceremony, Adam protested. The soul viewing created the initial bond, Nadira explained. A full ceremonial binding would strengthen and celebrate it, but in essence, we are already partially joined. If you choose to embrace that connection fully, even informally, it might be enough. Another impact rocked the chamber. The doors began to splinter, dark energy seeping through the cracks. Adam looked at Nadira, feeling the tenuous connection between them, a golden thread of energy that seemed to pulse in time with the crystal heart. Could he really commit himself to this alien woman and her world based on a mystical bond he barely understood? But then he remembered what he'd seen in the soul viewing, the depth of Nadira's commitment, the genuine cosmic resonance between them that transcended species and cultural barriers. And now, her people were under attack, partly because of him. What I need to do, he asked. Relief washed over Nadira's face. Take my hands and focus on our connection. Let your consciousness merge with mine as it began to in the temple. Adam took her hands, feeling an immediate surge of energy between them. The golden thread of their connection brightened and expanded, becoming a shimmering bridge of light. Now, Elder Solaris instructed, approach the heart with your joined consciousness. Together, Adam and Nadira moved toward the pulsing crystal heart. With each step, Adam felt the boundaries of his self becoming more permeable, his awareness expanding to include Nadira's thoughts and feelings. It wasn't invasive or controlling. Rather, it felt like two instruments finding perfect harmony. The doors to the chamber burst open with a tremendous crash. Shadow Reavers poured in, their weapons ready. The Asterian guards engaged them, but they were quickly overwhelmed by the superior numbers. We must hurry, Nadira urged, pulling Adam toward the crystal. As they reached the heart, Adam hesitated momentarily. Once he did this, there would be no going back. His life would be forever intertwined with this alien world and this woman. Through their strengthening bond, he felt Nadira's understanding of his doubt, her own fears and hopes. She wasn't the cold, imperious figure who had approached him at Gateway Solaris. She was a woman bound by duty and tradition, but with dreams and desires of her own. Together, Adam said, making his decision. They placed their joined hands against the crystal heart. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Energy surged through their linked consciousness, amplifying their bond 1,000-fold. Adam felt himself expanding beyond the confines of his body, merging with Nadira's consciousness and with the living energy of Arath, Seven itself. He could sense every plant, every creature on the planet. He could feel the flow of energy through the crystalline structures, the rhythm of life itself pulsing around them. And at the center of it all was the golden thread that bound him to Nadira, now a blazing conduit of power. The Shadow Reavers seemed to sense the change. They abandoned their attacks on the guards and rushed toward Adam and Nadira, energy weapons firing. Without conscious thought, acting purely on instinct guided by their joined minds, Adam and Nadira redirected the heart's energy. A column of brilliant light erupted from the crystal, expanding outward in a dome that encompassed the entire chamber. Where the light touched the Shadow Reavers, their weapons sputtered and died. The light-absorbing fields concealing their forms dissolved, revealing beings not unlike other Asterians, but with patterns of darkness etched into their silver skin. The leader of the Reavers raised his hand to fire one last desperate shot directly at Nadira. Adam felt her determination through their bond and moved in perfect synchronization with her. Together, they shaped the energy around them into a shield that not only blocked the attack, but redirected it back toward the weapons themselves. The feedback caused the disruptors to overload, sending the Shadow Reavers collapsing to the ground, incapacitated but alive. As the danger passed, Adam felt the enormous energy that had been flowing through him begin to ebb. He struggled to maintain consciousness, distantly aware that Nadira was supporting him as his knees buckled. "It is done," he heard Elder Solaris announce, his voice seeming to come from very far away. "The destined consort has awakened the heart. The prophecy is fulfilled." The last thing Adam saw before darkness claimed him was Nadira's face, filled with concern and something else, a warmth that transcended words. When Adam regained consciousness, he was lying in a healing chamber. The walls pulsed with gentle bioluminescence, and tendrils of living tissue monitored his vital signs. Sunlight filtered through a crystalline ceiling, casting rainbow patterns across the floor. He felt different, lighter somehow, as if a part of him had expanded beyond his physical form. The connection to Nadira remained, a warm presence at the edge of his awareness. Through it, he could sense that she was nearby, engaged in some urgent task. As he sat up, a young Asterian attendant approached. "The destined consort awakens," she said with a deep bow. "I will inform Lady Nadira immediately." "How long was I unconscious?" Adam asked, his voice rough. 3 cycles of the sun," the attendant replied. "Your human physiology was not prepared to channel such energies. It is remarkable you survived it all." 3 days. Adam ran a hand through his hair, trying to process everything that had happened. The soul viewing, the attack, the merging with the heart. It all seemed like a strange dream. And yet, the lingering connection to Nadira and to Arath, Seven itself, confirmed it had all been real. The attendant returned moments later. "Lady Nadira comes. She's been most concerned for your well-being." "What happened to the Shadow Reavers?" Adam asked. "They have been contained," the attendant answered. "The disruption of their weapons has led to significant revelations about external influences on their movement. The High Council has been in continuous session since the attack." Before Adam could ask more questions, Nadira entered the chamber. She wore simpler clothing than before, and her face showed signs of exhaustion. But the moment she saw Adam awake, a smile transformed her features. "You have returned to us," she said, approaching his bedside. Though her words were formal, he could feel her genuine relief through their bond. "Apparently I've been taking a nap while you've been busy," he replied with a small smile of his own. "There has been much to address," she acknowledged. "The attack revealed more than just the Reavers' opposition to our binding. They appear to have been supplied with their disruption technology by elements within the Alliance itself, those who fear the strengthening of Asterian influence. Adam Fronit, who in the Alliance would risk war like that. We are still investigating. But what we did together, has changed everything." She sat beside him on the edge of the healing platform. "The heart has never responded to anyone as it did to you. The energy we channeled together has rejuvenated the entire biomatrix of our central province." Adam felt a strange mix of pride and discomfort. "So, I really am this destined consort from your prophecies?" "It would appear so," Nadira said, a hint of wonder in her voice. "Though in truth, I think neither of us is exactly what the old stories predicted. You are not the conquering hero some expected, nor am I the passive vessel others assumed. Through their connection, Adam could feel her genuine thoughts, her initial reluctance about binding with a human, her gradual respect for his adaptability, and now, a growing warmth that mirrored his own confused feelings. "Where does this leave us?" he asked quietly. "The Asterian Council thinks we're, what, married now? The emergency binding we performed is recognized as valid." "Yes," she confirmed, "but it is incomplete by traditional standards. There would normally be ceremonies, exchanges of vows, and energy patterns." She hesitated. "However, should you wish to dissolve the bond, there are procedures, though they are rarely invoked." Adam sensed what she didn't say, that dissolving the bond would be painful for both of them, leaving a permanent emptiness where their connection now resided. "I need time to think," he said honestly. "This is still a lot to process." Nadira nodded, understanding flowing through their bond. "Of course, you have been thrust into our world with little preparation. It would be unfair to demand an immediate decision." She stood gracefully. "When you feel strong enough, I would like to show you something." 2 hours later, feeling surprisingly recovered, Adam followed Nadira through the living corridors of the compound. The damage from the Reaver attack was evident in scorched crystal and withered plant matter, though he could see signs of healing already beginning, new growth emerging from the damaged areas. They exited the main structure and entered a small personal transport, a platform of living material that hovered above the ground, guided by Nadira's thoughts. As they glided through the forest, Adam marveled at the landscape. What had seemed merely alien and imposing on his arrival now felt vibrant and interconnected. Through his new awareness, he could sense the web of life around them, the constant exchange of energy between plants, animals, crystals, and soil. "Where are we going?" he asked as they left the main settlement behind. "To a place of decision," Nadira replied cryptically, "a sanctuary where the cosmic patterns are particularly clear." They traveled for nearly an hour, passing through various biomes, dense rainforest giving way to crystalline highlands, then to a coastal region where massive trees grew directly from the water, their branches forming natural arches. Finally, they reached a secluded cove. A crescent beach of fine silver sand curved around turquoise waters. At the center of the cove stood a single massive tree, its trunk easily 100 meters in diameter. Crystal formations grew alongside it, reflecting the light from 2 small moons that had risen in the late afternoon sky. "This is the first tree," Nadira explained as they stepped off the transport. "According to our histories, it was here that Asterians first developed consciousness beyond mere animal awareness. It is where we come to make our most important decisions." Adam approached the enormous tree with reverence, feeling its ancient awareness brush against his mind. It wasn't sentient in the way humans or Asterians were, but it possessed a deep, slow consciousness that had accumulated wisdom over millennia. "I come here often," Nadira continued, walking beside him, "especially when my duties to House Luminaris feel most constraining. The tree reminds me that underneath titles and traditions, we are all simply living beings, connected to the same cosmic web." They sat together on a natural bench formed by one of the tree's massive roots. The sound of gentle waves filled the air, punctuated by calls from flying creatures that skimmed the water's surface. "The Alliance representatives have sent multiple requests for updates," Nadira said after a comfortable silence. "They're concerned about the diplomatic implications of what has happened." "Let me guess," Adam said wryly. They never expected their little forced cultural exchange to result in prophecies being fulfilled and shadow conspiracies being uncovered. A smile touched Nadira's lips. "Indeed not. They have proposed that you become an official liaison between Earth and Arath, 7. A position that would honor our binding while giving you duties that might feel more familiar." "A diplomatic position?" Adam considered the idea. "I've spent my career avoiding politics, but I suppose extraordinary circumstances call for adaptation." Through their bond, he felt Nadira's mixture of hope and restraint. She wanted him to stay, but was carefully avoiding pushing him toward that decision. "May I ask you something personal?" he said suddenly. "Of course. When you first approached me on Gateway Solaris, when you said, 'You will be my husband,' was that entirely your duty speaking? Or was there something else?" Nadira looked out at the water, considering her answer. "I was bound by duty, yes. The seers had identified you, and, as daughter of House Luminaris, I could not ignore their finding." She turned to face him directly. "But when I first saw you, before I even spoke, I felt the resonance between us. It surprised me, frightened me, even. I had expected to fulfill my obligation with dignified resignation, not to feel drawn to an alien being." Her honesty flowed through their connection, confirming her words. Adam felt a corresponding warmth spread through him. "And now," he asked softly, "now I find myself hoping that the man who shares my consciousness might choose to share my life as well." She answered, her star-flecked eyes meeting his. "Not because prophecy demands it, but because we have begun something remarkable together." Adam reached out slowly and took her hand. The contact intensified their connection, sending ripples of shared emotion between them. "I never planned to settle down," he said, "especially not on an alien world with a woman who ambushed me with a marriage proposal." He smiled to soften his words. "But I've never felt a connection like this with anyone. Human relationships suddenly seem limited by comparison." Hope blossomed through their bond, but Nadira remained measured in her response. "What are you saying, Adam Mercer?" "I'm saying I'd like to try," he replied. "Not because of prophecies or politics or cosmic destiny, but because when our minds touch, it feels like coming home to a place I never knew existed." Joy radiated from her, bright and warm through their connection. Without words, they shared a moment of perfect understanding. Not the forced joining of different beings, but the natural harmony of complementary souls. As the twin moons rose higher over the crystal waters, Adam and Nadira sat beneath the first tree, planning a future neither of them had imagined just days before. The universe, it seemed, had indeed brought together what belonged in harmony, though not in the way either of them had expected. The following weeks brought rapid changes to both Adam's life and to Arath 7 itself. The Shadow Reaver attack had exposed vulnerabilities in the planet's defenses and revealed concerning influences within the Alliance. As the diplomatic fallout continued, Adam found himself uniquely positioned to bridge the gap between worlds. The Alliance Council formally recognized him as Earth's ambassador to Arath 7, a position that gave him both official standing and the freedom to define his own role. Rather than being trapped by Asterian traditions or human expectations, he could forge his own path, one that honored both aspects of his new identity. Nadira, meanwhile, had risen in prominence within House Luminaris. The fulfillment of the prophecy had strengthened her position, and many Asterians now looked to her for leadership. Together, they formed a powerful partnership, combining his practical human ingenuity with her deep understanding of Asterian culture and bioscience. Their formal binding ceremony was held a month after the Reaver attack, once the most urgent diplomatic matters had been addressed. Unlike the emergency linking they had performed under duress, this was a celebration, a recognition of a union already formed rather than the creation of something new. The great temple had been restored, its crystalline structures gleaming in the sunlight. Representatives from throughout the Alliance attended, including a small delegation from Earth. Adam had been surprised and touched when his former commanding officer and a few old friends from the Space Corps had made the long journey to witness the ceremony. The ritual itself was simpler than the elaborate pageantry Adam had feared. He wore a ceremonial robe that combined Asterian design with elements of his Earth heritage. Nadira was resplendent in living crystal and bioluminescent flora that responded to her emotions, shifting in color and pattern throughout the ceremony. Elder Solaris presided, his weathered face serene as he guided them through the traditional exchange of energy patterns, a process that had once seemed alien to Adam, but now felt as natural as breathing. What began in cosmic alignment has been proven through trial, the elder proclaimed to the assembled guests. The union of Adam Mercer and Nadira of House Luminaris represents not merely the joining of two individuals, but a bridge between worlds, a new path forward for all sentient beings who seek harmony rather than division. As they completed the final ritual, a synchronized immersion in the pool of living starlight, Adam felt their already strong bond deepen and stabilize. The golden thread between them was now an unbreakable cord, a connection that would transcend even death, according to Asterian belief. The celebration afterward blended traditions from multiple worlds. Asterian energy dances shared space with human music. Food from a dozen planets were served alongside ritual beverages that enhanced empathic connections among the guests. It was, many afterward agreed, an unprecedented gathering, one that set a new standard for interspecies cultural exchange. Later, as the celebration continued around them, Adam and Nadira slipped away to a quiet overlook. Below them, the bioluminescent forest pulsed with life, while above, the star-filled sky reminded them of the vast universe that had brought them together. Having second thoughts yet, Adam asked lightly, though their bond ensured Nadira knew he was joking. Only about inviting the Xinthian ambassador, she replied with equal humor. I believe they are still attempting to consume the decorative crystal formations. Adam laughed, the sound mingling with the night breeze. Through their connection, he could feel Nadira's contentment, her sense of rightness about the path they had chosen. The Alliance delegation is already talking about expanding our model to other worlds, he noted. They see our union as a template for deeper integration between species. Politicians always seek to replicate success without understanding its essence, Nadira replied. What we have cannot be manufactured or imposed. It must grow naturally, like the first tree from nutrient-rich soil. Adam nodded, "Apirigian hervistom." Still, we've shown it's possible. That counts for something. Indeed, she turned to face him fully, her star-flecked eyes reflecting the moons above. And what of your next survey mission? The Alliance has requested that we both participate in diplomatic outreach to the outer systems. A husband-wife ambassador team exploring the galaxy? Adam pretended to consider. I suppose I could be persuaded. It combines your duty to foster understanding with my love of exploration. Happiness flowed between them, enhanced by their bond, but genuine in its own right. What had begun as a shocking demand from an alien woman had transformed into a partnership neither could have imagined, one that honored both their differences and their profound connection. As they rejoined the celebration, greeting friends and allies from across the galaxy, Adam reflected on the strange path that had led him here. Had someone told him weeks ago that he would be happily bound to an Asterian noblewoman, helping to reshape interstellar relations, he would have laughed in disbelief. Yet here he was, more content than he had ever been, with a bond deeper than any human relationship could provide and a purpose that combined the best aspects of both their worlds. The alien woman had approached him and said, "You will be my husband." Against all odds and expectations, he had become exactly that, not through coercion or prophecy, but through the discovery of a connection that transcended the boundaries of species and culture. As the twin moons of Arath, 7 rose higher in the alien sky, Adam and Nadira stood together at the threshold of a new chapter, not just in their lives, but in the story of interstellar cooperation. The universe, it seemed, still had many surprises in store for them. But whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as they now faced everything, together, as one mind with two perspectives, a bridge between worlds.